When God is silent, it doesn't mean he has forgotten you. It doesn't mean he has abandoned you. His silence is not his absence. His quietness is not his neglect. Many times, when heaven seems closed, when prayers echo back with no response, when faith feels like it's being tested beyond endurance, that is the moment when God is doing his deepest work within your life. His silence is the language of preparation. His stillness is the workshop of miracles. There are seasons in life when you will cry out, "Lord, where are you? Why are you not answering me? Why do I not feel your presence?" And yet God whispers through the quiet, "I am here, my child. I am working in the unseen. I am shaping you for something greater than what you can see right now." When the teacher is silent, it is because the test has begun. God's silence is not a punishment. It is a process. He is not ignoring you. He is investing in you. The moments when you hear nothing are the moments he is doing something eternal. The delay you feel is divine design. When you walk through darkness and you can't see the path ahead, remember that silence is the night before resurrection. When the seed lies buried in the soil, there is no sound, there is no movement, but beneath the surface, life is forming. The silence of the soil is the promise of the sprout. God is working in the soil of your soul, and though you see nothing, something sacred is growing. Think about Joseph. God gave him dreams of greatness, visions of leadership, glimpses of glory. Yet what followed was betrayal, slavery, false accusation, and prison. Years passed. Heaven seemed silent. No angel came to rescue him. No voice from above broke through the darkness. But when the time was right, God's silence broke into sudden action. The very prison that held Joseph became the passage to his purpose. The silence was not abandonment, it was alignment. God was aligning every detail, every person, every circumstance to fulfill the dream he planted long ago. When God is silent, he is not still, he is strategic. He moves like the wind. You cannot see where it comes from or where it goes, but you can feel its power. God's silence often conceals his sovereignty. He is orchestrating things far beyond your understanding. He is working in the background, arranging miracles that will one day unfold before your eyes. You may not hear his voice, but his hands are busy on your behalf. Do you remember Jesus on the cross? The sky turned dark, the earth trembled, and yet heaven said nothing. My God, why have you forsaken me?" cried Jesus. Silence. The Father said nothing, but he was still working. In that silence, salvation was being secured. In that stillness, redemption was being written. The silence of God on Friday became the sound of victory on Sunday morning. When God seems silent, resurrection is being prepared. Sometimes God's silence is a sacred test of trust. Faith is not built in the noise of blessings, but in the quiet of waiting. When you pray and nothing happens, when you believe and nothing changes, when you obey and still face storms, that is where faith matures. Faith that only rejoices when God speaks is immature. But faith that stands firm when God is silent is faith that conquers the world. The silence of God develops spiritual muscles that cannot be built any other way. It teaches you to walk by faith, not by sight. It anchors you deeper in his word. It pushes you closer to his heart, and it purifies your motives. Many people want God's power, but few are willing to endure his silence. Yet those who wait in silence are the ones who rise with strength. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. The eagle learns to soar in stillness. You may be in a season where prayers seem unanswered, where life feels delayed, where your heart aches for divine direction. Do not be discouraged. The silence is not the end. It is the middle of your miracle. God is not sleeping, he is shaping. He is not withholding, he is weaving. Every unanswered prayer is being carefully folded into a larger purpose that will one day make sense. One day, you will thank him not only for what he said, but for what he didn't say. You will realize his silence was mercy in disguise. When you don't hear his voice, hold on to his word. The word of God never changes, even when circumstances do. When feelings fade and heaven feels quiet, stand on the promises that cannot fail. God's word is louder than his silence. Sometimes God remains silent because he has already spoken. You don't need a new revelation. You need to stand on the one he already gave. Silence is not the absence of guidance. It is the invitation to remember what he said before. Abraham waited in silence for decades before seeing Isaac. Moses waited in the wilderness for years before hearing the voice from the burning bush. David waited in silence while hiding in caves, though he was already anointed king. Even Mary waited in the silence of 9 months before the Word became flesh. Heaven's greatest works are birthed in silence. So if God seems quiet right now, maybe He's gestating something within you. Maybe He's forming a destiny too delicate to reveal prematurely. If the seed breaks the soil too early, it dies. If the baby is born too soon, it struggles to live. God's timing is perfect and His silence is protection. The delay is not denial, it's divine incubation. In silence, God teaches us to rely on His character rather than His communication. If you cannot trace His hand, you must trust His heart. He loves you too much to let you remain immature. Sometimes His silence is His way of pulling you deeper into maturity, of growing your patience, refining your motives, and teaching you to listen differently. You start to hear Him not in thunder, but in whispers. You start to discern Him not in miracles, but in moments. Have you ever noticed that when a mother is teaching her child to walk, she sometimes steps back in silence? She does not speak, not because she stopped caring, but because she wants the child to take a step on his own. The silence of the mother is filled with love. She watches carefully, ready to catch if the child falls. In the same way, God steps back sometimes, not to leave you, but to let you grow. His silence is trust. He believes in what He's placed inside of you. There are seasons when prayer feels like talking to a wall. You kneel down, you cry, and you say, "Lord, speak to me," and yet nothing seems to change. But deep inside that silence, something is shifting. Every tear is watering a seed. Every moment of waiting is writing a testimony. And one day, suddenly, heaven will open, and you will understand why He was silent. You will look back and say, He was there all along. Sometimes silence is God's way of preparing the world around you for what He's about to do through you. Before the dawn, there is quiet. Before the rain, there is stillness. Before breakthrough, there is waiting. The silence of heaven is the announcement that something powerful is on its way. And when the silence finally breaks, it breaks with abundance. When God finally speaks, He doesn't whisper a word. He releases a world. The same God who said nothing for 400 years between the Old and New Testaments broke His silence with the cry of a baby in Bethlehem. When God finally spoke again, He didn't send a message. He sent Himself. That's how powerful His silence can be. It means something glorious is about to unfold. You may not see the signs yet. You may not feel the movement yet. But trust that God is working behind closed doors, in unseen places, in hidden chambers of destiny. He is preparing people to favor you, aligning opportunities to bless you, and setting the stage for your breakthrough. The silence is sacred ground. Walk gently and faithfully upon it. Every believer must learn to rest in the silence of God. Worship through it. Praise through it. Don't let the quiet cause you to quit. The silence is not punishment, it is preparation. It is the space between promise and fulfillment. The seed of faith grows best in silence because silence demands surrender. You stop striving and start trusting. You stop demanding and start depending. That's when peace fills your heart even when answers don't come. In those moments, lift your hands and say, "Lord, even when I don't hear you, I trust you. Even when I can't see you, I know you are near. Even when you are silent, I know you are working." This is the kind of faith that pleases God, the faith that walks in the dark, believing that dawn will come. If you are in a silent season right now, do not lose heart. You are in God's waiting room, and waiting rooms are not wasting rooms. The silence means the story is not over. The author is still writing. The composer is still orchestrating. The potter is still shaping the clay. And when he is finished, what emerges from the silence will be more beautiful, more powerful, and more purposeful than anything you could have imagined. So do not fear the silence. Embrace it. Let it teach you patience, trust, and depth. Let it refine your faith and renew your heart. For when God is silent, He is still speaking, just not in the way you expect. And when He is silent, He is still moving, just not in the places you can see. The silence of God is not the end of your story. It is the setup for His glory. You may be in a night of silence, but morning is coming. The same God who seemed silent on Friday resurrected victory on Sunday. Hold on, keep praying, keep trusting, keep believing. For in the silence, God is still working, and soon, what was silent will sing. Even when the silence stretches for months, even when years pass and the voice of heaven seems distant, God is moving in ways invisible to the human eye. Every moment you feel alone, every prayer that seems unanswered, every tear that falls unnoticed is being collected by Him. They are not wasted, they are not meaningless. They are the currency of faith. The Bible tells us that the Lord sees the sparrow fall, and even more so, He sees the struggles of your heart. He counts your size and measures your endurance. What seems invisible now is laying the foundation for what will one day be undeniable. God's silence is often a sanctuary for your soul. In the quiet, He teaches you to hear His voice in the ordinary. In the silence, He teaches you to recognize His fingerprints in the small, overlooked details of life. The whisper of the wind, the laughter of a friend, the unexpected word of encouragement. These are often the ways God speaks while the world remains still. You begin to realize that you do not need a loud answer to know that God is faithful. His faithfulness is embedded in the fabric of your life, even when you cannot immediately perceive it. Consider how a farmer trusts the process of growth. Seeds are sown in silence, buried beneath soil, invisible to the eye. For days, weeks, sometimes months, nothing seems to happen. Yet beneath the surface, roots are forming, shoots are pushing, and life is taking shape. The farmer does not dig up the seed every day to see if it is alive. He trusts in the process, knowing that what is unseen is as real as what is visible. So too, God's work in your life is like that seed. You may not see immediate results, but He is cultivating something that will one day emerge strong and fruitful. When the silence feels unbearable, it is natural to question your path, your purpose, and even your worthiness. But remember, silence does not equal rejection. Even in moments of apparent delay, God is confirming your value. He is reinforcing the fact that His plans are far greater than your impatience. Often His silence comes when you are close to a breakthrough. It is the pause before the miracle, the stillness before the storm turns in your favor. That pause is sacred. It is a sacred rehearsal for the glory that is about to enter your life. Abraham's story demonstrates the power of waiting in silence. Imagine the weight of decades spent in uncertainty, hearing promises but seeing no fulfillment. God promised him descendants, yet he remained childless for years. That silence could have shattered anyone's hope, but Abraham's faith persisted. He believed in the promise even when reality did not reflect it. And in the fullness of time, that silence gave way to Isaac, a child of promise, a living testimony that waiting in God's silence is never wasted. Sometimes the silence teaches humility. In our culture, we crave immediacy. We want instant answers, instant results, instant gratification. But God's ways are higher than our ways. His timing is not ours. He uses silence to teach us patience and to remind us that we are dependent on Him, not on our own understanding or our own timing. The moments when we feel most abandoned are often the moments when God is inviting us to lay down our own control and trust His. In surrender, we discover strength, wisdom, and a depth of faith we could never achieve otherwise. The silence of God also builds endurance. Endurance is forged not in comfort but in challenge. It is easy to trust when everything goes well, but the true measure of faith is how we respond when heaven is quiet. When you continue to worship, continue to pray, continue to obey in the midst of silence, you are building a reservoir of resilience. That reservoir will sustain you when storms come, when trials intensify, and when the weight of life presses down. The faith that persists in silence becomes an unshakable foundation. Consider the story of David. Before he became king, he spent years hiding in caves, running from Saul, facing betrayal and uncertainty. In those years of silence, no encouragement, no visible signs of progress, he honed his heart, he strengthened his spirit, and he prepared for the kingdom that awaited him. The silence was not empty, it was formative. What he learned in the shadows equipped him to rule with wisdom and courage when the time came. Your period of quiet is doing the same for you. God often works in silence to protect you from premature blessing. Sometimes we pray for things that are good but not yet right. Our timing is flawed, our understanding is limited. God, in His silence, delays the answer until the blessing can be fully realized without compromise or harm. His delay is not denial, it is divine protection. Just as a doctor waits until the body is ready for a treatment, God waits until your life is ready for the fullness of His plan. He does not withhold, He prepares. Even when the silence is painful, it is never purposeless. Pain often accompanies growth. The pressure you feel is shaping you, just as heat shapes gold, as friction sharpens steel. Those moments when you feel the absence of God's voice are the moments when your character, your patience, your faith, and your perseverance are being refined. One day, you will see that the silence was not an obstacle, but a tool for your development. When you pray and hear nothing, remember that heaven is still listening. The angels still carry your prayers. The Spirit still intercedes on your behalf. What seems unanswered is being worked out in a way that is far beyond what you imagine. God's silence is not rejection, it is meticulous orchestration. He is arranging circumstances, opening doors, and preparing hearts, both yours and the hearts of those who will walk with you into destiny. The silence of God also invites intimacy. When nothing else distracts you, when heaven seems quiet, your heart becomes the instrument through which His Spirit moves. In silence, prayer becomes more than a habit, it becomes a dialogue of trust. A worship becomes more than music, it becomes a language of surrender. Faith becomes more than belief, it becomes reliance on God's unseen presence. The absence of sound sharpens your spiritual senses, teaching you to feel, to hear, and to trust what cannot be measured by human standards. Think of Joseph, who spent years in prison without a word from God, while the world turned against him. He could have surrendered to bitterness, but he chose faithfulness in the silence. When the moment of deliverance arrived, it was not by chance, it was by the unseen hand of God that had been guiding, protecting, and preparing him all along. His years of silence became the stage for his rise. The unseen work of God in your life may also be preparing you for your own Joseph-like breakthrough. God's silence is also an opportunity for gratitude. Often, we fail to appreciate His presence until it is hidden. In the quiet, we are reminded of how much we rely on Him. Gratitude transforms our perspective, shifting our focus from lack to provision, from doubt to trust. The absence of immediate answers cultivates a heart that cherishes every small sign of His care. And when the answer finally comes, gratitude amplifies the joy, making the victory sweeter because of the wait. Silence is also a call to persistence. Do not stop praying just because you do not hear an answer. Do not stop believing just because you cannot see progress. Do not stop serving just because recognition is delayed. Every act of faith, every moment of obedience in the silence is an investment in a future that God is carefully preparing. Your persistence turns the silence into a sanctuary of hope, a proving ground of character, and a catalyst for breakthrough. God often works in silence to increase our capacity. The quiet stretches us, tests us, and teaches us to hold more than we thought we could. Just as a vessel must be emptied before it can be filled, our lives must be prepared in stillness before they can overflow with blessing. In His silence, God expands your heart, strengthens your spirit, and increases your endurance. You are being prepared not just for what you want, but for what He wants to give, a life filled with purpose, impact, and glory that exceeds your imagination. Even in the midst of silence, God is faithful. Faithfulness does not depend on sound or sight. It depends on His unchanging nature. He does not grow weary. He does not forget. He does not falter. His timing is perfect. His plans are flawless, and His love is relentless. When you feel the absence of answers, remember that faithfulness is being displayed in ways you cannot yet see. The silence is the proof that God's work is intentional, His plan is precise, and His purposes are eternal. God's silence often precedes His revelation. When you feel the stillness, prepare yourself to hear His voice in new ways. You may not recognize it at first because it comes in forms unexpected. A word of encouragement from a stranger, an insight from Scripture, a sense of peace in your heart. These are the subtle ways God speaks when heaven is quiet. The silence trains you to discern the still, small voice amidst the noise of the world. Sometimes the silence is for your protection. We want answers, but not all answers are good for us at the moment. God knows the timing and the impact of each revelation. What seems like delay may be a shield, preventing harm and directing you toward blessing. Trust that His silence is not indifference. It is a careful stewardship of your life, guiding you through unseen dangers and preparing you for the fullness of His promise. The moments of silence also teach dependence. It is easy to rely on God when life is loud with blessings and answers, but true dependence is cultivated when heaven is quiet. In those moments, you learn that your strength is not in your ability to control circumstances, but in your trust in His sovereignty. You learn to surrender, to wait, and to hope. You learn that even when nothing seems to happen, God is still orchestrating every detail for your good. Even when God is silent, your obedience is never unnoticed. Every act of faith, every prayer, every step of trust is recorded in heaven. Nothing you do in faith is ever wasted. The silence may seem long, but God is attentive to every detail. He sees your heart, He knows your struggles, and He honors your perseverance. Your faithfulness in the quiet becomes the foundation for miracles that will one day unfold before your eyes. In silence, God cultivates hope. Hope is not passive, it is active trust in the unseen. It is the confident expectation that what God has promised will come to pass, even when all evidence points otherwise. The silence tests and strengthens hope, allowing it to grow beyond wishful thinking into unshakable assurance. The hope that survives silence is a hope that can withstand any trial, endure any storm, and see you through to victory. The silence of God is not empty. It is full of purpose, full of preparation, full of possibilities. It is a sacred time where growth is taking place, unseen yet unstoppable. It is a time to cultivate patience, to deepen faith, to strengthen hope, and to sharpen character. It is a time to trust, to obey, to worship, and to persevere, knowing that the God who is silent is the God who is still working, and that his timing is perfect. His ways are wise, and his promises are certain. Even when all seems quiet, the universe itself testifies that God is at work. The sun rises, the rain falls, life continues, and the heartbeat of creation moves according to his design. Just as the seasons change with precision, just as rivers carve valleys over time, just as stars burn steadily in the night sky, so too is God working steadily in your life. You may not see the movement, you may not hear the sound, but every moment is part of his perfect plan. When you feel abandoned in silence, remember that God is always near. He is closer than your breath, deeper than your thoughts, and stronger than your fears. His silence is not distance, it is intimacy disguised. He is inviting you to walk by faith, to trust without seeing, and to believe without hearing. In the stillness, you are learning the essence of reliance, the depth of surrender, and the power of trust. The silence of God is a call to steadfastness. It challenges you to remain committed when the world doubts, to stay faithful when circumstances tempt you to give up, and to continue pressing forward when every logical reason suggests stopping. Steadfastness in silence cultivates endurance, builds character, and positions you to receive what God has long promised. It is in the quiet that warriors of faith are forged. Do not fear silence. Do not despise waiting. Do not question the absence of sound. For God is at work. His hands are moving, his spirit is orchestrating, his eyes are watching, and his heart is planning. The unseen work is the most important work because it lays the foundation for lasting impact. The miracles that matter most often come after the longest silence. Your season of silence is not a season of insignificance. It is a season of preparation, of refinement, of deepening, and of alignment. The prayers that seem unanswered are being woven into the tapestry of your destiny. The tears that fall unnoticed are being stored for joy. The trials that press upon you are shaping you into someone capable of receiving and stewarding the blessings to come. God's silence is sacred. It is a time for reflection, a time for growth, a time for trust. It is a season where your heart is being molded, your faith is being tested, and your hope is being strengthened. Embrace it. Receive it. Walk through it with courage and confidence, knowing that the God who is silent is the God who is still at work, crafting something extraordinary, something eternal, something that will surpass everything you have imagined. Even in silence, God's promises are active. Every scripture you have believed, every word he has spoken, every covenant he has established is alive and working behind the scenes. What seems dormant is dynamic. What seems quiet is powerful. What seems delayed is precise. Trust that the God who works in silence works with purpose, and that your obedience in this quiet season will one day become the testimony that inspires generations. Silence is not God's absence, it is his artistry. It is the space in which he crafts miracles, shapes destinies, and transforms lives. It is the classroom in which faith is educated, patience is taught, and perseverance is refined. In the silence, you are not alone. You are being prepared for a breakthrough that is already written in eternity. You may feel frustrated, tired, or discouraged. You may wonder how long this silence will last, or why God has not spoken yet. But know this: every day, every moment, and every second of that silence is a stroke of God's brush painting a masterpiece in your life. Every unanswered prayer is a thread in the tapestry of destiny. Every trial endured is a stepping stone to triumph. Keep trusting, keep hoping, keep walking, keep believing. In the silence, God is faithful. In the stillness, God is powerful. In the delay, God is perfecting. And when the time comes, the silence will break, the heavens will open, and the work that has been hidden will be revealed in all its glory. Even when nothing seems to happen, even when the world is quiet, Even when your heart aches with longing, God is at work. His silence is a promise. His stillness is a preparation. His delay is a blessing. Do not despise it. Do not fight it. Do not fear it. Instead, trust him, follow him, serve him, and wait patiently. For the God who is silent is the God who is always working, and his timing is perfect. His purpose is eternal, and his glory will shine through your life in ways you cannot yet imagine. The quiet moments of your life are not wasted. The pauses in your journey are not meaningless. The unanswered prayers are not ignored. Every element of silence is designed to produce something extraordinary within you, to teach you lessons that cannot be learned in noise, to cultivate a faith that cannot be shaken, to prepare a heart that can fully receive the blessing that is coming. The silence of God is an invitation to intimacy. It is a call to deeper trust. It is a pathway to greater faith. It is a proving ground for perseverance. It is a preparation for purpose. It is the soil in which miracles grow, the canvas upon which destiny is painted, the rehearsal before the symphony of your life is performed. Even in silence, God's love surrounds you. Even in stillness, his spirit guides you. Even in delay, his promises hold true. Even in waiting, his power is active. You may not see it, you may not feel it, you may not understand it, but God is still working. He is crafting, shaping, aligning, and preparing. Every moment of silence carries within it the potential for greatness, for breakthrough, for transformation, and for glory. So stand firm in faith. Remain steadfast in hope. Walk faithfully in obedience. Trust unwaveringly in his love. The God who is silent is not absent. He is active. He is working. He is orchestrating. He is preparing you for a future that exceeds every expectation, a destiny that surpasses every dream, and a life that will testify to the power, the faithfulness, and the glory of the God who works in silence. The silence is sacred. The stillness is strategic. The waiting is worthwhile. God's timing is perfect. His plan is flawless, and his purpose is eternal. Keep trusting, keep believing, keep hoping, keep walking, for the God who is silent is the God who is always working, and the silence will one day break in a revelation so powerful, so beautiful, and so perfect that you will know without doubt that his ways are higher than your ways. His thoughts are greater than your thoughts, and his work in your life has been perfect from the beginning. Even in silence, God is faithful. Even in stillness, God is moving. Even in waiting, God is preparing. Even in the unseen, God is orchestrating. Keep trusting, keep praying, keep hoping, and keep believing. For the God who is silent is the God who is always working, and his work in your life will one day shine as a testimony of his glory, his love, and his perfect timing. And so, as we reflect on the quiet seasons of our lives, let us remember that God's silence is never empty and his stillness is never idle. Every moment of waiting, every unanswered prayer, every tear that falls in the night is being woven into a greater story, a story only he can write. The delays we face are not denials, they are divine preparation. The silence we endure is not abandonment. It is a sacred space where faith is refined, patience is strengthened, and hearts are molded to receive the fullness of his blessings. Even when we cannot hear his voice, even when the world seems indifferent, we are not alone. God is present, working behind the scenes, orchestrating events, arranging people, and shaping circumstances in ways that are beyond our understanding. His timing is perfect, his purposes are eternal, and his promises never fail. So let us embrace the silence with faith, hope, and trust. Let us continue to pray, to obey, to love, and to serve, knowing that every moment of stillness carries within it the seed of breakthrough. When God is silent, he is still working, and in his perfect time, his glory will be revealed, and our hearts will testify to the power, faithfulness, and love of our living God.